So believe it or not, Call of Duty Activision have come out and finally spoken about matchmaking in the Call of Duty franchise. Not just the current COD, but going all the way back to COD 4 Modern Warfare, which is absolutely insane. We're going to go through this here in this video. If you appreciate this one, be sure to leave a like, subscribe for more. Do variety gaming content here on the channel. Talk up the games, play the games, gaming news, guides, walkthroughs, whatever. You name it, we got it. Also started a brand new channel for horror and survival kind of games. If you're into that kind of content, be sure to check that out. Skelly's Carnival. I'll link it down in the description below. We have a few videos up right now, and tomorrow at the time of recording this, we're going to be doing Lord willing, Poppy's Playtime. Poppy Playtime Chapter 3. That series is nuts. Okay, talking about series, let's talk about Call of Duty. That's what we're here for. We're going to go over to the blog post. You guys can see it up on screen, and we're going to be discussing this a little bit. Now, if you want to read the whole blog post, you can do so. We're not going to read every single thing. There's a couple things I want to kind of highlight, so we're going to kind of skim through this. This is kind of an introduction. Right here, we have a picture, and the picture is going to probably be what I'm going to use for a thumbnail, most likely, or something, because it's probably the best way to thumbnail this. But that is the Call of Duty matchmaking process, which has to do with connection, player diversity, recent maps and modes, input device, voice chat, platforms, skill and performance is right here. That's a skill-based matchmaking portion of it, and time to match. But as you can see, there's 8 different things in this category, right, in this list. So there's a lot of different things. So they go into some bullet point forms. We'll probably read through all of these, but after that, we'll just kind of, skim through some of the other parts. So the number one thing that they actually list is connection. We don't get until skill and performance to like down here, which is like what, this is 3, 4, like this is like what, 5th in the list. But connection is, as the community will test, ping is king. So basically connection is always going to be the most critical and heavily weighed factor in the matchmaking process, they say. And then also time to match, right? They want to get people in the games quicker. And so that, that's kind of the second thing they factor into that. The following factors are also critical, they say. So player diversity, the number of playlists available for players to choose from, for example. Recent maps and modes, so they're going to be considering maps you have recently played on, as well as your mode preferences, edible, which is edible in the quick play settings. I assume this means like if you've played certain maps recently, maybe they're less likely to come up into rotation, and so they're going to matchmake you with someone who's going to be playing a different map than the map that you just got. Maybe, I don't know. I'm not really sure on the details of that, but that's what it sounds like to me. Skill and performance goes into stuff like, well, this is what gives our players a global community with a wide skill range the opportunity to have impact in every match. And again, they're going to go into more detail down below. This bullet point form. Input device, very self-explanatory, controller or mouse and keyboard. The platform, depending if you're on PC or console. And then voice chat, whether it's enabled or disabled. So these are all factors into their whole skill, their whole matchmaking, kind of process, if you will. They say every time a player begins matchmaking multiplayer, for example, the process needs to work through all of these factors to find other players. So these are all things that factor into their kind of algorithm, if you will, for that's pretty much that. Okay, so they basically say that these factors have resulted in a process that they believe is the best player experience and creates a stronger community for Call of Duty worldwide. And they're going to get into a little bit of that as well. They're saying measuring connection to matchmaking, so they're going to talk about connection to matchmaking and all that stuff. I'm not going to go too much into this portion because I feel like this is something that maybe you want to read on your own, but maybe is less relevant to what you're kind of curious about. But they do talk about the client server model to host matches and all that good stuff. So going into this, we've got measuring time to match for matchmaking. Again, this is something that for example, they're talking like Modern Warfare 3's Rustment, right? Which consists of rust and shipment. Players often leave lobbies and or matches early on, hoping to requeue into shipment instead. What this actually does is creates a vacant spot on a team during an early stage of the match, and as the matchmaking process may prioritize backfilling that spot, this could result in players perceiving that rust is disproportionately selected over shipment. So if you've ever wondered that, that's kind of what's going on there apparently. So the TLDR is basically trying to cherry pick maps, having an unexpected result. And so, yeah, that's how that works. And then it got a little bit more into skill-based matchmaking, or the measuring skill for matchmaking. Maybe we'll try to spend a little bit more time on this section, because I think this is the section that most people are most interested in. There's some other sections I want to kind of highlight as well, so just bear with me. But in here, basically says that, while skill is one of several factors in Call of Duty matchmaking, we know that the community wants more information, right? So skills determine on players' overall performance. That's going to include kills, deaths, wins, losses, and more. I don't know what the more is, because they're not going into that, but kills, deaths, win, and losses all factor in, including your mode selection, of course, and recent matches as an overall metric across all multiplayer experiences. And they say that this is a fluid measurement that consistently is consistently updating and reacting to your gameplay. So skill is not the only factor, not only a factor in matchmaking player against appropriate enemies, but also when finding teammates. So sometimes people, think like, oh, hey, my teammates are bad, but my opponents are great, and it's not matchmaking me fairly. But apparently it is, according to them. It doesn't feel like that, but according to them, if they're being transparent for real, then I beg to differ, and I think that it's not going 100% as they want it to. They basically go in here. This is where we talk about COD 4, by the way. They say that COD has historically considered player performance among other factors as part of a matchmaking process. They said, our work in this area dates as early as Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare, which is all the way to 2007. So apparently this has been going on since that era. But again, you would assume that it's all refined, right? Obviously it's not the same process to a T. Assumingly it worked very differently back then. And again, anyone who's played these CODs back then and plays COD today can attest to that 100%. The experience doesn't lie. Okay. I'm not saying they're lying, but sometimes the companies are a little bit deceptive. I'm just saying. Skill is implemented across the video game industry, and we recognize the continuous refinement is required to deliver the best possible experience for our players. So they recognize that. They go into all this stuff about, we use player performance to ensure the disparity between the most skilled player in the lobby and the least skilled player isn't so vast that players feel their match is a waste of time. So basically that they go in this section to say that their data, all the things that they've collected over time, basically goes on to show that lower skill players are consistently on the losing end. They're more likely to quit matches in progress or stop playing altogether, and that's a problem obviously for them. They don't want people to be quitting. They want people to be playing the game, obviously. Excuse me, and all that. So that's a huge thing that has an effect on the player pool as well, which affects everyone else's player experience to some extent as well. Smaller player pool means wait times for matches are going to increase. Connections may not be as strong as it should be, etc., etc. So that can compound over time, they say, to create a spiral effect. Eventually, when only high-skilled players remain because lower-skilled players have quit out of frustration. Listen, I get what they're saying here, but at the same time, and again, I understand that their data, we don't see their data, we only see our experience. But from my experience, we've always had players that, were getting wrecked, and sometimes we were those players. I think the skill-based matchmaking is a little bit tighter nowadays than it was in like 2007 with COD 4 or, Modern Warfare 2, back in, 2009. I definitely think that. Those old CODs, Black Ops 1, Black Ops 2, Modern Warfare 1, Modern Warfare 2, Modern Warfare 3, the originals, that is, all those games, right? World at War, all those games, they just felt different. Way different in terms of like everything felt different. Skill, the matchmaking, everything just felt so much different, and it felt more fun. Now it just feels like, I don't know, it just feels like kind of we're all on a leash or something. I don't know. But anyways, they go on a little more into this, basically saying that, that's a huge thing. So they have to take that into consideration. And they've heard feedback, right? They say, like, we also understand that many high skill players want more variety of experience, but often feel like they're only getting the sweatiest of lobbies. We've heard this feedback clearly and continue to test and actively explore ways to mitigate this concern. So they're also looking into that. I understand. I want to be like, sympathetic in the sense that, like, I get it's a hard balance, right? I understand that. And obviously as a player, we don't see all the nuances, but at the same time, the experience at the end of the day matters. But again, I get they're trying to balance it for everybody's experience, but sometimes it's okay for people to get a little mad, as long, look, when people get a little frustrated, they're going to want to keep playing the game. But like, back in the day, not many people were quitting back in Modern Warfare 2 the way they had it implemented back then. So there's something that's changed between then and now. That's for sure. I just, anyways. They basically go on to saying that, like, they want to answer some of the most frequent questions. So here I think we're going to read this whole section, or try to, because this is like the Q&A of like the highlighted questions, right? So for example, does Call of Duty consider player engagement, time played, as a factor in matchmaking? They say we do not consider how often or how much you have played. So it doesn't matter. Does Call of Duty matchmaking process impact any in-game elements such as hit registration, player visibility, aim assist, damage, etc.? Because a lot of people have said, they really feel that strongly, and at least especially in the past couple of years, they're convinced of such. But apparently no. It doesn't. So I don't know. Take it as you will. Does spending money affect anything? Money spent does not in any way, shape, or form factor into matchmaking. I don't think it does either, but you never know. Some people have accused them of that. So Excuse me, you got to keep that in consideration. Does Call of Duty use bots multiplayer matchmaking? They say they do not, but if they ever do in the future, if this changes in the future, they're going to inform the community, but they don't. Do partners or content creators? This is always a huge thing. And listen, man, I have been on this side of it, right? And what was it, 2019? Activision flew me out to LA. So I've had that kind of side of the experience, and I can say 100% this is no, they do not. I can tell you this for sure. They do not. Just the same thing, like everyone always assumes, like, oh, like, you know, COD content creators are getting paid if they say something nice. If you get paid for it, you legally have to disclose that. So you will know if a content creator is getting paid for something. So yeah, no, everybody's in the same thing. There's no tweaking for anything like that. They do say that in specific cases, such for like Call of Duty Next, we may be required to customize how lobbies are formed, right? For example, when I went in 2019, I ended up playing against Pomage in one match, and oh my gosh, that was bad, dude. I got smoked. He's good. All right, he's good. But that was good times. I had fun. I had a blast. Anyways, have you ever considered an opt-in/opt-out system for the matchmaking algorithm? And they said basically that, you know, they don't want to split the pool, because that would split the whole pool and whatnot. And that would just create a whole other kind of amount of issues, longer wait times, and you know, all that good stuff. It's kind of partly why they give maps for free now, is because when maps were paid for, it ended up splitting the pool. And the more map packs that came out, the more you split the pool more and more and more, where it's like, well, at some point, not everybody has all the map packs. So, you know, that was one thing they kind of did there. Have you ever tested removing skills in consideration from matchmaking? Basically, they say that they have done this over the years as a consideration for matchmaking, you know, and all that. They say that, you know, they continue to launch these tests periodically, but to date, the data remains consistent, which they, you know, detailed above. Players tend to quit matches or stop playing, you know, if you're getting blown out, basically, resulting in a negative overall experience for players in the lobby and the general player population. We purposefully do not disclose when these tests occur because it may impact feedback or data we see during the tests. So we have been part of these tests without even realizing it. So sometimes it might be like, how did you feel about that match? And maybe they're doing a test at that time, maybe not. Who knows? You know, it's a mystery. Last thing, have you considered removing skill from matchmaking in specific general multiplayer modes? So for example, you know, specific modes, you know, who knows, maybe like Rustment or something. I don't know, whatever. They said, we have considered this in the past. We'll continue to examine it if this idea makes sense as part of an experimental playlist or in specific modes, but we have nothing to announce on that front today. So that's pretty much it. That is all that they kind of wrote. Again, there's a lot of stuff we didn't read here in this video. I didn't want to make this video just like a 30-minute me reading through the entire blog post. I wanted to highlight certain parts, and again, I wanted to throw them up on screen, so we just kind of went through it in this format. So hopefully you're not too mad at me for that. You know, I'm not trying to be lazy with how we're doing this, but again, I wanted to show you guys on screen. This was kind of the most efficient way to do it. So let me know in the comments, so what do you guys think about it? Do you think does your experience seem to counter anything that they have said? And in some ways, I've already expressed that I feel like my experiences in some ways have countered some of the things that they've said and stated in this post. So, and again, when I also compare it to old Call of Duties, I also think that there's a contrast there as well. Like, things were very different back then than they are now. And sure, you can argue that, you know, players have gotten better. There's a bigger player base. You know, there's many different factors. I can understand that, but at the same time, the experience is still generally much different than it was back then. And part of it too is not just the matchmaking, but it's also the balancing of the gameplay elements, right? And this is what I was saying when I think a lot of things have changed beyond just the matchmaking. It's also the gameplay elements, right? Where they're trying to so perfectly balance everything, where back then things were broken. Explosives were explosive, you know what I mean? They had a pretty good radius. Now explosives, like, they have such a tiny little blast radius, it just feels like, man, what's the point to use a grenade? You know, half the time. So I don't know, you know, noob tubes, yeah, they were annoying, but they were fun. You know what I mean? And I feel like just a lot of the life is sucked out, a lot of the fun and the life is sucked out of a game when you try to overbalance everything and just try to like please you're not going to please every single person. You're never going to do that. So just make something that you think is fun as developers. And I think at the end of the day, you know, that'll resonate, right? I think the best pieces of media, whether it's music, movies, games, TV shows, whatever, the best things that have ever been created have been things that the creator has had most fun making, and then that usually resonates the most with people, right? You could take probably any of your favorite games. I think of Tony Hawk Pro Skater, that whole series, right? It was created out of just like a bunch of like skaters and like developers who were skaters that wanted to create a skateboarding game, and they just made something really, really fun out of it. You know what I mean? Now imagine if that got the Call of Duty treatment where like everything was like just so obsessively over tweaked, right? You take kind of the fun arcadey aspect out of it. And so, I don't know. That's just a consideration. Anyways, I've ranted long enough. Thanks for watching. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. We'll see how this kind of changes in the future. At least it's nice to see that they're talking, finally, not just ignoring the community. Obviously, there's a lot of changes taking place within Activision, especially with Microsoft now owning them. So maybe that's part of the factor. I don't know. But let me know your thoughts, and I'll see you guys soon in another one. Leave a like, subscribe for more. Leave it a like if you enjoyed that I brought you this content, not if you like necessarily the blog post. Maybe you hate the blog post. Let me know if you do. See you guys soon. Till then, game on. Hey you! What are you doing? Join the Skeleton Army! Do it today! Don't wait till tomorrow because tomorrow might never come. The Earth is gonna fade, that's inevitable. The next second of your life's not even promised, so you better think about where you're going, and you might as well just join the Skeleton Army. Plus, we do kind of like you a little bit, so it'd be nice to see you around here. But if you don't want to, hey, your loss. See you later.